do, pow, pow, pow. All right, greetings from the wasteland. This is Freedom Phil, and what's the topic today? You know, people talk about government conspiracies and how the big 1% are trying to screw you over, just milk you dry. And there is some truth to that, but then you ask yourself, for all the people that have said, we need to save the environment, lower the carbon footprint, blah, blah, blah. Why is it you don't see these teachers teaching kids to build like solar heaters? Something as simple as a fun school project like an aluminum pop can heater. Aluminum pop can heater? Yeah, I ain't kidding. You can use like piping from, your gutters, that aluminum pipe. There's lots of different ways to do it. And I see these heaters and I think to myself, that's genius. They're using the eternal power of the sun. People are like, what about at night? We go to some designs on that one too. Yeah, Freedom Phil, like, subscribe. Let's get into it. Hey, turn up the video speed. And why do I always say that? Because I don't be real about it. People watch videos at regular speed, and I think that's just stupid. Like, I watch my videos. I watch everybody's videos at least at 1.75. So, hey, like, subscribe. Let's get into it. And, hey, subscribers only for the conversation because, no offense, I don't need to be reading a bunch of randoms. I don't need a bunch of idiots, a bunch of dummies. Just saying. I look at these aluminum pop can solar heaters, and the same way they do with the solar water heaters. And it just strikes me that our country, our people, we're basically kept in the dark about a lot of great technology. And it's only because of stuff like YouTube and, the internet in general that, somebody will know about some technology and they'll go out and build one of these things. And then some other people show it online and they're like, and you look at it and I'll admit they look kind of weird, but I'd rather be a little bit weird than a whole lot of stupid. Our houses are built in a dysfunctional, psychotic way. Like, what do you mean psychotically built houses? Your house requires you to constantly pay a maintenance fee to keep it from destroying itself. Think about it. We've had the knowledge for generations that if you build into the side of a hill, and you can't do this everywhere, but you can do it a lot of places. And even then you could do mound housing on the outside. You build into the side of the hill, you're getting 50, 60 degrees year round. So your pipes would never freeze in that situation. But with the south facing wall, whether it's a cabin, a house or whatever, if it was well insulated, you could basically harness most of the day. Even on, partially overcast, you're getting some serious BTUs from a solar pop can heater. Same thing with like a solar water heater. And then all you got to do is pay for maybe a fan. If you build it right, you could have the situation where the cold air is flowing downward and then getting kind of sucked and pushed in via, convection. Because as it heats up, it starts causing it to push air. So you basically need almost no fans. So how much electricity would you need to run a system like that? Probably not much. By the way, if you want to talk, just be a subscriber for a minute. I just figure if you want me to be concerned about what you got to say, well, then you should at least be a subscriber. You don't do anything for free. Why me? I look at the technology that is being covered up by the mainstream. And I see these people. We got everybody on these distractions, Property taxes is theft. Taxes are theft. Yeah, I agree. Taxes are too high. I agree with that. But I look at my property taxes, say, for instance, my house up north. If they're only about $1,000, do I spend more on water? Do I spend more on heating? Do I spend more on insurance? You add it all up. The way that we're structured to live our lives, I think it's on purpose to keep everybody on a payment plan. The money you piss away on utilities, that money could literally, if you just put it into the market and making 10%, let's say you lose $3,000 to $4,000, and depending on the size of your house, whatever you pay property taxes, you pay a pittance on your property taxes, maybe $1,000, $2,000, whatever. Mind you, if you got kids, that public school ain't free. You're talking anywhere from 10,000 per year to 20,000 per year. It's 20,000 per year per student back in Western Washington for K through 12. And they don't even teach your kids how to build something that would have free heat. Now, let's just say that, oh, well, what if it's, super cloudy out? Okay, so you got to run your heater a handful of times. It's just like out here in the wasteland with the solar. So once in a blue moon, you have to run a generator. And let me tell you something. Between my two systems on my van, I haven't had to run a generator not once this winter. I just turn off the refrigerator at night. I have ice packs in there, so they get all frozen. They stay all frozen all the time. So it's just like when the energy is abundant, we just charge things, run things. And when the energy is a little less plentiful, we just turn off the fridge and it's fine. It'll stay cold for days. Now, that same line of thinking, imagine how much less you would need oil, natural gas. And look, don't get me wrong, I love me a wood stove. I just love wood heat. You see the fire in there and all that. But if I was to build a wood stove, I'd build like a pit house. One of those earth shelters, And I'd build one of those thermal mass rocket stove heaters where they use a lot of soapstone and build like, a bench, like a couch, but it's made out of stone. And then the smoke goes through there. The hot superheated smoke because of the super draft goes through there and it heats it up. And then that'll radiate heat for about 8 to 12 hours off of 2 hours of burn time. Enough burn time to maybe do a little cooking, assuming, you build the design that way. But all the same, if the house is built into the hill, and by the way, I am perfectly comfortable at like 35 to 40 degrees. Like 40 degrees is comfortable for me in the mornings. An earth shelter style house gets around 50 to 60 degrees just from the earth. You run some air pipe technology, you're going to get that air pipes where you go down 8-9 feet. You got a situation where, we're talking 50, 60 degrees just off fans. You could be doing below ground greenhouses where you got the sun coming in. You're growing tropical fruit in like Arctic conditions. Well, I should say Arctic, but like Nebraska during the winter. Might as well be fucking the Arctic. Like it's minus 20 this last night. Fuck that. And then we come back to the whole concept of the electric car. Just go look it up. Look up how many kilowatts the average house uses, and then look up how many kilowatts the average electric car commuter uses. You could approximately power, for what you're wasting in electricity, oil, gas, and all that, 2 whole electric cars could be charged if you built an earth shelter. Now, what am I talking about with this? Why is it our public schools aren't teaching this? They're teaching these kids to go out there and, protest over a bunch of illegal immigrants. Some of them even criminals, sickos. You got kids that can barely read. The only reason they're even remotely proficient at reading, you've seen some of these dummies in the chat. By the way, if you guys want to comment, feel free to hit that subscribe button after 1 minute. We'll see what people's got to say. You'll see these dummies in the chat that use like early 2000s texting language. Like, are you, where are you at? Like, what the fuck is that shit? You could teach anybody, even elementary students could be showed how to build an aluminum pop can heater. They could be taught how to build a little wood-powered rocket stove. And it is actually more useful to their life than a lot of the fucking crap they're teaching them. You got kids who can barely do math. I can add and subtract. Duh. They don't even know, science. They don't even know it. So I'm just asking, 13 years of education, and your kids should have a trade when they leave school. Instead, they're good enough to flip hamburgers and stock dollar store shelves. And mind you, you're paying anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. I shouldn't say you're paying it directly. They take a little bit on your property taxes. Yes, someone complained, my property tax is too high. They got 3 kids in school at $15,000 apiece. Hell, in Western Washington, it's $20,000. And that's K through 12. That ain't no university. You think about that, like say 15 grand a piece, that's 45K. Add in the child tax credit, that's 50K a year in benefits. Now imagine for a second if you educated your kids at home, if you got the money the government was taking for your schools. Because when your kids get out into the world, and they all these liberals talking about we need to save the planet, we need to reduce the carbon. Well, I just described a bunch of ways you could do it. I mean, hell, if you wanted to have a generator for off-grid times, assuming that the power companies were going to pay you a fair rate, equal rate for what you produce. Like that's why a lot of people don't want to do solar. Because if you're hooked up to the grid, you're just giving the fucking power companies, you're just giving them free power. Oh, they charge you 45 cents a kilowatt, and they only pay you 10 cents for your solar. Pfft, fuck that shit. I ain't got to put no 30 grand of solar panels on just to make P&G rich. Just saying. Just saying. Or is it P&E? I can't remember which one it is. Or whatever your local utility is. No, at that point, you're better off being off-grid. People talking about property taxes, right? My property taxes on my West Coast property are only $500 a year. My water bill, whether I drink it or not up north, is $1,600 a year. Insurance, what do you call that shit? Heating, electric. That's probably, so we're talking probably $3,500. Let's see, no, 3,500. So 1,000. Just property tax about probably 1,000. So let's just say $1,500. So like $3,000. You could actually invest that money and do something with it. I know most of you don't even have $3,000 in your bank accounts. But imagine having a house that would actually do that for you. So why aren't we teaching that in schools? And I think, and I agree with a lot of the others that have said this, we are purposely kept in the dark on something that runs for free because somebody sells you a subscription fee that you can't opt out of in our society. See, that's the real conspiracy. People always talking about the 1%. The 1% are screwing us over this way, that way. They're screwing us over by having our kids ignorant as fuck. And then everybody follows the leader and does the same thing, the boomers and the Gen Xers and the millennials. They all just follow the leader right off the cliff. Well, I don't want to do something different because that'll be weird. And people will talk. Oh. So we'll keep on building slightly better, inefficient designs. Where's that revolution? I hear all these communists talking about how America's a scam. I hear all these environmental communists talking about we need to save the planet, but I never see those same people building aluminum pop can heaters, building solar water heaters. Oh, they got a lot to say when it comes to the evils of capitalism. But I just gave you a solution. Yeah, imagine this for a second. Maybe we could get rid of property taxes if we didn't have to build a new power plant on the regular. Oh, wait. We'd have all the power we need for all the electric cars everybody wants to get. Not everybody, but a lot of people. If our houses were built like earth shelters. Well, you ain't going to see that happening, are you? And you know why? Because nobody's talking about it. Where's the float going down the road in the parade showing solar technology? Not just photovoltaic for making electricity, but pop can heaters. Where is that in high schools? Where is that in middle schools? This is shit an elementary student could build. You'd all be sitting together. It'd be a, kind of class project. And if nothing else, just introducing such thinking to children would make them more conscious about a better way. We are purposely kept in the dark. And then they try to make things like this illegal. You remember back in the day, all those states that were trying to ban wood stoves? Why is that? Because they want you buying propane or electricity. And then they can't afford to build a new power plant? Oh, no nuclear. No coal, no gas. You can't count on this government to get it right. And I'm not just talking about Trump. I am talking about the entire apparatus. I am talking about the Democrats, the Republicans. We could have a paradise right now if we just started building it. I don't know. That's my thoughts. Freedom Phil. Y'all take it easy. Like and subscribe. Thanks for the likes, people. And yeah, peace.